All right, we're joined now by Devin Mance, who's a trackman foreman with BNSF Railway, which is the Warren Buffett-owned railroad company. Devin is actually joining us from North Dakota, where, good Lord, what is the wind chill where you are right now, Devin?
I believe it's right around 30 below at the moment. It should get colder overnight.
Good Lord. All right. So the reason, Devin, that we wanted to have you on is that Devin featured in an article that I wrote for The Intercept about the union organizing that went into the recent railroad fight that went through Congress. Devin, you helped pull together what's called BMWED, Rank and File United, which is kind of a caucus of rank and file workers that is designed to kind of put pressure on the company, put pressure on union leadership to make sure that they are responding to the needs of rank and file workers. How would you put what BMWED Rank and File United does?
Oh, that's exactly what the point of the caucus is. We're a reform caucus that just began because we saw that there needed to be a change. That there needs to be that constant pressure from below. And we want to give that voice to the rank and file members, and that's what we're trying to do. Also, we're trying to help out doing some education. A lot of union members don't know really about trade unionism at all, and it's a tough thing to learn how to do when you're going through union bureaucracy and the normal conservative union stuff that we always do, claims and grievances and that kind of stuff. And so we're just trying to uplift the rank and file members and let them know that they have a voice in their workplace.
Right. And so for background, people can check out the piece I did over at The Intercept. But basically in mid-November, about 25 workers came straight from the tracks to Washington, met with more than 100 members of Congress. At the time, you met with staff for Jamal Bowman. And then once Biden dropped the hammer and sent the contract over to Congress to be ratified, you were one of the workers who was in touch on the House side with Bowman, putting together the strategy of how you were going to try to salvage something from this wreckage. Didn't want to have you on to rehash all of that. What I wanted to hear is how the company has been treating you since then.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Railroads have been known for a long time to do different sorts of retaliation, and I'm sure a lot of different corporations do the same kind of stuff. But right now I'm under an investigation for kind of some bogus charges. I could possibly be fired here in the next few weeks or be penalized and be on probation for a year, within that year they can fire me for the silliest little things. Fortunately, I do have a good union rep who is on my side and trying to fight to get rid of those charges. They're all trumped up, and BNSF knows that it's all BS, and that if it goes to arbitration, which it will, if I do get fired or if I get that probation, then it'll be dropped. The arbitrator is going to agree with us, but that's 2 years away. So I might be out of a job here for the next 2 years. So if anybody's looking for an organizer.
Well, and that has to have a chilling effect on other members of the rank and file and people who might be considering speaking out against BNSF for very reasonable purposes over ridiculous policies going forward. So if they make an example out of you, Devin, how do you think that affects people, whether it's a probation or being fired? How do you think that affects the sort of momentum among your colleagues that are sort of fed up and ready to be public about a lot of this?
Yeah, that's a really great point. It's really cheap for them to do. I mean, look, I know I'm a pain in their butt. I know that. If arbitrator comes back in 2 years and they have to pay me back all my lost wages for the last 2 years or 3 years or however long it takes, it's still cheaper than what it is for me to be out there, right? Like I know I'm a pain. But yeah, I mean, that is a chilling effect on them. That I would hope that that would lift them up a little bit more and get people to talk a little bit more to each other and say, this guy got that, so we need to stick together. And so you keep a positive spin on it and not go to the everyone hush, everyone be quiet, don't bring up anything because you're worried you might get fired just like Devin did or get penalized. If this happens, I'm definitely gonna put that word out there that that they should still keep fighting. They should band together, and that's the only way we're gonna win this thing.
And I don't want to get to how you're a pain in their ass in a moment, but first I think it's important for people to understand the kind of banal ways that this retaliation works. So how much, because you and I were talking last night about the details of this, and I think it's really interesting to a window into the way that corporate retaliation against workers actually plays out in the workplace. How much can you talk about? Can you tell us a little bit about, precisely what these trumped up charges are?
And the timing, when they slap you with these.
Yeah, so basically, so it's kind of, I'm going to try to explain it as easy as I can because every industry has their own little things. But basically, we're told to put our time in. We do it all on the computer. We do it all on an application, and we put our own time in. And we're told to do our time for the day before or the morning before, and then change it the following day. Now they want us to do that because on their scorecards, they get bonuses for on-time performance, right? So if you put your time in, that's what we call it. It's just putting in the time that you worked on time, then they get a better bonus at the end of the year. So why wouldn't they want you to put it in early? So anyways, without going into all the details, essentially, I did that and my job had ended. I wasn't able to change my time the next day. And I had asked a timekeeper, I'd sent an email. This is a very common thing to do. Just send an email to a timekeeper and ask them to change the time. And they did it. 3 days later, I get an investigation notice that I was stealing time. And I'm like, no. And I talked to my union rep. I talked to my manager. They're all like, oh, no, sorry. Nothing you can do. My union rep's like, this is BS. This happens all the time. We get cut letters all the time, constantly. They're trying to take time away from us. And it happens like 3 days later that I get this charge. And it's just so silly because this happened to me about 3 years ago once too. And I explained the situation, and my manager's manager, who's in charge of these investigations, says, oh yeah, no, that makes sense. That's fine. We'll drop it. So they dropped it because they understand. Like now, this same exact manager is still coming after me for the same exact thing that happened 3 years ago, and it's a total common thing to happen. So, yeah, it's really unfortunate that it's going down that way. But
yeah, and so basically the way it could unfold is they would fire you, say you stole time, and then force you to go to arbitration. And then, like you said, even if you win in arbitration 2 years from now, 3 years from now, they would owe you, every penny of lost wages over that period of time. But like you said, to them, it's worth it to have you out of there. And can you talk about that a little bit? Like, what are the types of things? And you're a shop steward as well for your shop. And so, what are the kinds of things that an active shop steward does that would make it so that a company like BNSF would say, you know what, it's actually cheaper for us to pay this guy for a couple of years just to not show up to work?
Yeah, so as you said, I am the shop steward. We call him local chairman where I come from on the railroads. But essentially what you do is you try to force the railroads to abide by the agreement. And sometimes it's management just doing whatever they want, and sometimes it's the corporate side of things doing whatever they want. And either way, if it's against the agreement, we have to file claims or we try to get them done right away. I mean, I go into the manager's office and talk to him and say, hey, like, this isn't right. You got to do it this way. This is what the agreement says. Sometimes they're like, oh, okay, well, we'll fix it. Or sometimes you have to, and it may cost them a little bit more money now, but sometimes you have to file these claims and grievances, and those can take 2 to 3 years to get paid or not get paid. It depends on the arbitrator that you get. It's kind of a crapshoot, to be honest with you. And so that's years down the road. And so what ends up happening is if you keep filing these claims is you get a steady income of thousands of dollars being put in your members' pockets by the railroads. And sometimes it's, they're paying contractors to do our job. And those are claims like we should be doing those jobs and we're able to, right? We're trained to do them. But then they're going to have to pay twice. And like, that's how much money these railroads have is they cut all these positions, but then they hire contractors and then they end up paying now for the contractor, which is more expensive. And then they end up paying in 2 to 3 years after the arbitration's all done. And so they end up paying double. And so I try to abide by our agreement as much as possible. And I try to help our membership do that too. They're doing an excellent job at letting me know what's going on. But, when you bring up these issues, they don't like it because it's not as easy for them, right? Like they just want to do whatever they want, even if it's against our agreement. And so I'm fighting to keep that all the time. And so if that costs them a lot of money, then it is what it is. But that's what I'm talking about is where it would be easier for them just to fire me because money doesn't mean a lot to them.
Yeah, except when it would require a total rethinking of precision tactics because they would have to actually hire more people instead of just giving sick days. Amazing how steep that uphill battle is for you guys just to get those sick days.
Yeah. And while you're here, you've been kind of roped into this kind of debate that's been going on among what they kind of call the independent left about the whole strategy to get Jamal Bowman to push for the 7-day sick leaves. The strategy has been called by a lot of people naive, saying that there was no chance that Senate Republicans, 10 Senate Republicans were ever going to go along with this, and that it's just a giant kind of cover for the squad who's just a sellout to Democratic Party leadership. Wanted to kind of quickly get your response to that, and also what's it been like to kind of see yourself as become part of this this online debate?
Well, it is really interesting to see this national news and national audience, people talking about this kind of stuff. So it's very odd, just coming from the tracks and just doing my everyday job to something so nationally recognized. But so it's really interesting. So I appreciate that article, especially because that's pushed a lot of that out there. But, I've been in contact with Bowman's office, with Cori Bush's office, and a couple other progressives too. And it's been really great and really cool to see it all happen. And they've been awesome and wanting to help. I remember Cori Bush's office was like, well, why can't we ask for 15 days? Like they wanted more. And it didn't line up with the strategy that National had pushed for in the first place. And you need to push as one. You can't just change it up and ask for 20 different things. I mean, I'm sure all their offices would have rather given us way more, but that's just not the reality of what we do. And as far as, the left bashing on all these progressives are helping us out, I understand their point. I really do. But it's just not our reality. It's not what we have today. Now, should we try to fix that for the future? Absolutely. Like, great. Do we want to put timelines on the Railway Labor Act? Great. I would love that. I don't want to wait 3 years for my contract. But, that was our strategy. And that is what we asked them. I specifically asked them for that. And telling us that we're naive because we didn't think that, or you didn't think that some Republicans were going to come with us. Well, I mean, look at Ted Cruz did.
Yeah,
Ted Cruz.
Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, he's a populist, right? Like he sees that, hey, we might be able to get some workers actually with the GOP here right now, right? So, and they saw that, Marco Rubio, right? Like these odd people came out and actually supported us. So to say that we're naive or we're dumb, we don't know what we're doing because we didn't think or we knew it was going to fail in the Senate, that's incorrect. That couldn't be more far from the truth. Actually, a lot of our members are conservatives and they vote for these people, right? And they know that, right? These representatives know that they vote for them. So now that they're on record saying that they didn't support our sick days, I've actually had people say, hey, look, Bernie Sanders, Jamal Bowman, oh, wow. And these are conservatives, right? Like these are Midwest flyover state conservatives, right? In
Trump
the back.
folks.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're saying, wow, like they actually stood up for us. I have a lot of respect for these people now. And they're actually moving a little bit more to the left. So the people that are far to the left and are trying to push these progressives that actually helped us out, I think you're doing a giant disservice. And I understand your point and what you're trying to get at, but it's really coming from the wrong place. And I really think that you need to rethink and talk to some actual workers.
I think you guys had a much better pulse on the situation. The Republican Party is as corporatist as the Democratic Party. It has just as many problems with corporate corruption, but they also represent the working class increasingly, especially in some swing states, like Wisconsin, Ohio, Pennsylvania, et cetera, know what's in their best interests and are responding to that. And you picked up on that. Obviously, your workers know that in a way that I think people in the sort of progressive movement, professional.
You think the
activist
independent
class.
left might have their finger on the pulse of the Republican Party?
Is it shocking? I don't know.
Shocked.
It's just a hunch.
Yeah. Oh, and Devin, one quick fun story. Devin and I were in touch a lot throughout this in my capacity of reporting on this for The Intercept. But then at the very end, Devin's like, "Wait a minute, you're the guy on Counterpoints." So Devin has been a viewer of Breaking Points for a while.
That's awesome.
And didn't make the connection until the very end. But proud to have you as somebody who watches the show. And we're going to keep following your case because we're not going to let them retaliate against workers who are just asking for their basic rights without at least facing some public shame for it.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me on. Appreciate you guys a lot.
Thank you, Devin, and please stay warm and safe during the crazy weather hitting the Midwest this week.
Yeah, it's insane. Yes, it's just going to get colder out there. So he's in North Dakota.
I'm heading straight into it later today.
Minus 30.
Yeah, you know.
And he was saying like they're gonna like so it's an hour earlier. He's working today later. They were trying to get them. He said to do a bunch of routine maintenance, and he's like, somebody could die out there.
Yeah.
Now, if a track breaks, and the tracks do break, he's going out there.
There's a lot of, and I've seen a lot of people saying, listen, rail workers are already really highly compensated. They're not the biggest case study. Like, they're not the best sob story for workers right now. And it's like, no, rail workers are relatively, on average, they make good money. They make decent money. But it's a very high-risk, dangerous, vulnerable to the elements type of job that explains exactly why, first of all, you're going to have a hard time recruiting people to do those jobs and a hard time, obviously, maintaining them. But, like, that money is hard-earned because of exactly conditions that we were just talking about.
Yeah, and I should have given him credit for this while he was here. But one of the reasons that these companies are so furious at people like him and are so willing to pay so much to get rid of him, a lot of people have talked about how crappy the contract was, and the contract was crappy. 0 sick days, and one little personal day, awful.
Planned. It's still planned. You still have to plan it.
His particular union, BMWED, won something that they had lost 3 years ago, which is basically expenses for when you're on the road. So because he fixes the tracks, obviously the tracks don't break next to his house.
Yeah.
You could have to travel 600 miles and be there for several weeks. And they won a concession that ends up at being estimated at $80 million a year for mileage and for lodging, because you had people who were sleeping in their cars and were basically working for free because of the expenses that it cost them to get to where they had to go. They talked about people who were going from Illinois to northern Nevada, like regularly. And so now the Presidential Emergency Board said, look, this is the business model that the railroads have chosen.
Right.
If you want to make Devin drive 500 miles, rather than hire somebody who's closer, then you have to compensate him for doing that. So that's a big win, and it comes because the BMWED in particular was more mobilized and organized, and particularly thanks to people like Devin who have been organized in the rank and file.
And I know we have to run, but I was just thinking as we were talking to him from a 30,000-foot view how ridiculous the sort of basic contours philosophically of shareholder capitalism are, where you say, well, if somebody doesn't want to do this job, they'll go find another job. It's not the responsibility of this company to provide a decent, reasonable lifestyle for its workers, a quality of life for its workers. If they don't want to pay out of pocket for expenses to get from point A to point B, screw it. Right?
Right.
Like, screw them.
Right.
We'll find someone else. We're
Right.
just trying to maximize the value of this company. That might involve buybacks. It might involve extreme compensation for people at the very, very top. And if people like, if our rank and file doesn't like it, screw them. They'll go find a job somewhere else. And there are enough desperate people who need cash that'll take this position that we can continue to exploit them and not allow them to have a normal family life and keep money that is rightfully theirs.
Right.
And it is so on its face, insanely ridiculous. And when you even have people like Ted Cruz, as Devin said, recognizing that because their workers, their voters recognize it because they're dealing with it. I mean, it's the farce is exposed.
Right. And so not only is Mike Pompeo welcome to come on to the show, BNSF, open invitation to come on and justify the charges that you're trying to level after the work that Devin did. Open invitation. Come on.
Please come on, defend it. And that's our show for today. Hopefully, we'll have more on this in the future. Maybe BNSF does want to come on. Maybe Mike Pompeo wants to come on.
Be great. Be a great panel.
That's right. Of course, we will be on top of both of those storylines going forward, and we hope we're signing off for the year. Technically,
That's right.
Aren't
We'll
we?
see you in 2023.
2023.
Maybe with intro music. No.
What a great time it is to be here. We're so lucky to be here with this team. We're so thankful to all of the viewers, all the subscribers, and to Sagar and Crystal and all of the team here.
And the crew that we make scramble at the last minute with all our changes. So thank you to everybody out there.
Appreciate it. I hope everyone has a great holiday season and a great end to the year.
All right, see you later.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Sagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.